Dear viewers, dear listeners, a warm welcome to this program with the motto, "The true school is the life." Today with the topic, "When the Life Film Rewinds." When we hear the word life and think of our lives, then we think of our everyday life, our work life, our family life. And each of us will have completely different pictures of our life in our minds, because every life is fundamentally different, just as no two people are exactly alike. Some people start thinking about life at a young age, or not until an advanced age. How long will my life last? What is the meaning of my life? Or, what do I want to be able to say about my life when I look back on it at the end of my life? For nearly 50 years, during teaching hours upon teaching hours, Gabriele, the prophetess and emissary of God in our time, has brought us human beings pearls upon pearls for our life from the cornucopia of the divine wisdom. During one of these teaching hours, Gabriele taught that the life of every human being consists of a so-called lifespan and a death span, and that our life can be compared to a film, on which every day on earth, every moment of our life is recorded. So, from birth on, throughout our lives, we write our own life film. Our life film first runs forward as we grow older. The time in which the life film runs forward is called the person's lifespan, in which everything is recorded on our film reel. What we think, say, do, thus everything that constitutes our life. And at some point in life, there comes a decisive turning point, following which the life film gradually comes to a standstill and begins to rewind. This is the beginning of the so-called death span. It is the time in which the life forces very gradually recede in order to prepare the soul for the beyond, and during which the person whose life film is rewinding can still recognize and clear up, that is, put in order many things that they have caused in their life.
Gabriele sagte in ihrer Schulung,
Gabriele said during her schooling hour, during the lifespan, there is activity, a pressure, and in between there's always the thought, stop, is what you have done right? In the lifespan, we set big goals. We try to get as far up the ladder of success as we can. Frequently, we tread down on others or elbow our way up. But we know that every word is recorded, since it is already analogously written that we must give an account for every word that comes out of our mouth. It is the same with our feelings, with our thoughts, and also with our actions. Thus, from birth on, we are recording. We record in our brain cells, in our soul, and via the soul, we record in the stars and planets. What we input is sorted. The positive, the divine, is activated in the eternal being. We have a higher, a broad communication toward the eternal life. The negative is stored in the planets of the purification planes, according to which we determine the pathways that we then take as a soul after our physical death.
Gabriele explained how we can make use of the lifespan. During the lifespan, there are many setbacks and blows of fate. During the lifespan, many things already come to us, namely, what we have already entered in our soul and in the memory bank of the stars and planets. During the lifespan, we also have the possibility to recognize our all too human aspects, which are sinful aspects, to clear them up and to no longer commit them. And so, all too humanness is sinfulness. The human being is the body that envelops the soul, and the all too human aspects are the sinfulness. Many blows of fate occur during the lifespan. Many wishes are not fulfilled. What do we do with this? If we recognize our part, our sinfulness, and clear it up, then we attain a deep communication toward the eternal self, toward God in our inner being. If we do not do this, then it remains in the soul. It remains in the stars. It remains in the conscious mind and the subconscious. In the lifespan, when we set the big goals, frequently a target that is unattainable, but that we think we can achieve, we rarely remember our childhood, our youth. It's not interesting. Forward. But suddenly, the decisive turning point comes, and we realize that the great goals may not have been achieved, or they were indeed achieved, and what did they bring us? Worry, suffering, enmity with our neighbor. We may have elbowed our way up or tread on those below us in order to climb higher on the ladder of success.
Dear viewers, dear listeners, surely much of what Gabriele explains here is very familiar to us. And she gives more explanations how the lifespan passes into the death span, and the life film gradually begins to rewind. Let's hear what she says about this. Suddenly, the turning point comes. The life film rewinds. And when it rewinds, we call this the so-called death span. During the death span, we should actually become calmer, more reflective. We then look back on our life. In the death span, pictures from childhood come up, pictures from our youth, pictures of the family, with the children, with our partner. Pictures from our occupational life come up, pictures of how we behave toward our colleagues. What we recorded and did not clear up, that pushes into the death span. And when the life film is rewinding, the less we have cleared up during our lifespan, the more we have turned toward the world and not toward the divine, the more we then want to make up for our youth. Often we blame our parents, our colleagues at work, our partners, maybe even our children, for what happened to us. If we have cleared up little during the lifespan, then the death span, that is, when the film is rewinding, also becomes troubled. We want to make up for our youth. We want to make up for lots of things that were and now can no longer be. With this, we feel troubled. That makes us not childlike, devoted to God, but childish. We develop a behavior that does not correspond to our age, but that wants to be youthful and yet is not. This is then how we act toward our fellow people, and one can generally call this childish. We want to make up for something that can no longer be, because it is already behind us.
Gabriele
explains further. If, on the other hand, we have recognized some things during our lifespan when the film is running forward, that is, if we have recognized sinful aspects and cleared them up with the help of the Christ of God and no longer committed them, then it becomes calm in our heart. We then say, it is a mellow age or a mellow life, for we do not know when the turning point in the film of life comes, when it will rewind. One person grows to be 80 years old, the other only 30 or 40. The film of life is also shaped accordingly. And what happens during the span in which the life film is rewinding, that is, during the death span? Many pictures come from the past, from the time during which we have recorded. And these pictures are either memories or they bring action. We grow restless, we become hectic. During the death span, that is, when the life film is rewinding, we have the possibility to see pictures, often going back to childhood, up to 5 years of age. And in the hectic activity, in the restlessness we sense, something is not right. If we allow this restlessness, if we let these pictures, which are movement because we record the pictures in our conscious mind, in the subconscious, in the soul, and also in the stars and planets, if we let these pictures come alive, then we will learn our sinful part. If we clear up this part, then it will also be erased in the stars and planets. So when the film of life is rewinding, life, our life, the life of each individual, begins once again to sort out the individual incidents. What we clear up, that is erased or goes into our world of memories. What we do not clear up, that remains in the soul and in the stars and planets, in the purification planes. So when the life film is rewinding, we have the chance once more to look at our life, which is the increased grace of God, to weigh the individual situations in our mind. What has been cleared up? What is a nice memory? What upsets us? We can then remedy that. And we know that if the people with whom we can clear it up are no longer with us, that is, if they are souls in the beyond, then we can clear it up with Christ and through Christ.
Gabriele continues. So, when the death span has set in, when the life film is rewinding, then once again there's a sorting out of things. What do I clear up? That will be deleted. What has to go into the world of memories, and what remains in our world of memories? This helps us as a soul in the beyond or in another incarnation. What sins are not cleared up with Christ? These remain in the soul, also when the body passes away. According to this state of consciousness, we then go to the corresponding purification plane, to those corresponding planets into which we have input as human beings. That is then our place of residence as a soul. Therefore, lifespan, death span, generally speaking, the life film. It runs forward, and then comes the turning point, and it rewinds. During our whole life on earth, the grace of God, the help of the Christ of God is active, and thus the redemption, which helps us to recognize the sinfulness of our all too human aspects and to release ourselves from it, so that through redemption, that is God's grace and love, we can enter the kingdom of the inner being.
And to conclude the schooling, Gabriele said, "Therefore, let us make use of the chance as long as we are in the earthly garment, and let us recognize the great grace of God, the unending help during the whole life film, even when the life film is rewinding. We are in the best hands. We are in the hands of the Christ of God, our Redeemer. And if, step by step, we draw a little bit closer to Him, Christ in us, then we feel His great help, and we have accomplished in this life what helps us as a soul, to go toward the eternal being. And that should be the goal of every single person, to enter the heavens after the death of the body and not to come back." Dear viewers, dear listeners, we do not want to add anything to these encouraging words, except the heartfelt wish to all of us for the strength and determination to implement in our daily lives what we have heard today, if we want to. In this spirit, all the best, and greetings in God.
Wenn wir in diese Welt blicken,
When we look into this world, we ask ourselves, is that the inner life? Or is that total lust for a material existence?
das innere Leben,
The inner life is purity,
Schönheit,
beauty,
Gleichklang,
consonance, love,
und
freedom, and unity.
das innere Leben ist
The
der
inner
Geist,
life is the
es
Spirit.
ist seine Kraft,
It is His power.
es ist sein Gesetz
It
der
is
Liebe,
His law of love,
das alle Menschen,
which
alle
unites
Wesen,
all
die
people,
Natur, die
all
Tiere, die
beings,
Pflanzen,
nature,
die ganze
the animals,
Unendlichkeit
the plants,
eint.
all of infinity.
Der Geist Gottes,
In each
der
of
Geist
us,
unseres
in every
Vaters,
person, the Spirit of
bejaht
God,
in jedem
the Spirit
von
of
uns,
our
in
Father,
jedem Menschen,
affirms His
sein
law
Gesetz
of
der
love,
Liebe,
of
der
freedom,
Freiheit,
of
der
beauty,
Schönheit, der
of unity.
Wer
Whoever
sich
turns
vom
away
Besitz
from the law
Gottes,
of God,
der Liebe,
of
der
love,
Einheit und
unity,
Freiheit
and freedom,
abwendet,
cultivates the so-called
das sogenannte
material
materielle
existence,
Dasein,
which is
das
not
nicht
the
das
life,
Leben ist,
but ultimately
sondern letzten Endes
spiritual
der
death.
geistige Tod. Blicken wir in unsere Welt,
When we look into our
dann sehen
world,
wir immer mehr
we
den
see
geistigen
spiritual death more and more.
Die Welt gerät mehr und mehr aus den Fugen.
The world is coming apart at the seams more and more, not through the law of life, but through the people who strive solely for materialistic things, who believe that a material existence is the be-all and end-all. They call this their life.
Immer mehr Menschen.
More and more people are becoming greedy. Corruption is the order of the day. Hatred, envy, hostility, wars, strife, murder, and manslaughter between human beings against Mother Earth and against the animal world. And so we can say, what kind of people are these? Basically, they are our brothers and sisters. Many, very many, are Christians who affirm their faith, but do not activate it.
Doch nicht aktiv werden lassen.
For faith, true faith is life. True faith is unity. True faith is consonance. This has nothing to do with all that the world offers. To a certain extent, we human beings are very, very negatively polarized. We think for hours, days, even weeks about what we don't like and what concerns us. We forge plans on how we can pay back our neighbor, that is, get back at him. Let us think about our disdain toward our neighbor because he is just the way he is, and we do not want to and cannot accept this. We brood, and in our thoughts, we perhaps talk with the one we can't find anything good to say about. At home, we complain about our work, about how this one or that one acts. Let us ask ourselves, isn't there anything positive about the one whom we think or talk negatively about, whom we can't find anything good to say about? Every person has his positive sides. We don't mean the positive that serves for our benefit or flatters our ego, but what corresponds to the 10 Commandments of God and the teachings of Jesus the Christ.
Wie wäre es, wenn wir uns jetzt Gedanken machen?
What if we now think about the positive sides of those whom we reject and belittle with our brooding thoughts, toward whom we are hostile and spiteful?
Wenn wir jetzt
If we now look for the positive sides in our neighbor, we will find them,
wenn wir wollen.
if we want to.
Wir müssen das Positive bejahen.
We have to affirm the positive, affirming it over and over again, above all, when we fall back and we become brooding and negative again. Let us practice in this awareness. The positive is in each person, and each person has something positive about him. And if we affirm this over and over again, we will soon notice about ourselves that our soul becomes stronger, that we become happier, that our body receives powers from the soul, and not lastly, the person or the people in whom we affirm the positive, what is pleasing to God, will also find their way into this awareness. Not everything is bad about our neighbor. And we ourselves, who affirm the positive in our neighbor, will also soon recognize that there is indeed something positive about us. And if we build this up and foster it, we will feel strengthened each day more, built up in the Spirit of God. Let us begin with ourselves. Let us allow ourselves to be guided, and we will find the positive sides in our neighbor. And if we do what was just stated, we will experience wonderful, upbuilding days and feel how close God is to us.